Welcome back, Tangerinis. Today we're going to be talking about how the coronavirus is affecting Mexico, specifically the small fishing village that we're currently living in called Puerto Morelos.
And a little over 2 years ago, we were living in the US. We sold everything we owned to start traveling through Mexico, and we've been in this town for over a year now. Before we dive in, if you're anything like us, you've been sitting at home for several weeks now and you're getting pretty bored. Well, if you want to start to do something productive with your time,
you might want to use your time to start learning a new language, finally get your booty in gear, and now you have nothing left to do but that. So you could start learning Spanish the way that we have been learning for the past 2 years. We think this is the most all-inclusive, best course that there is, the most bang for your buck. If you want to check out Rocket Languages, you can go to TangerineSpanish.com.
That's our affiliate link. We are an affiliate for Rocket Languages, so if you make a purchase through that link, we'll get a nice chunk of change from that, which really helps us out, and you get the best value Spanish course there is.
But seriously, we've never seen a sale like this, so if you want to jump on that and come out of this quarantine with something to show for it, you can head over to TangerineSpanish.com. That link forwards right to Rocket Spanish.
And that sale is going on for a couple more days.
When the coronavirus really started spreading and hitting the US, we actually happened to be there at the time visiting my family. We ended up cutting that trip short to come back to Mexico out of fear that the borders were going to close and we wouldn't be able to, and basically we decided to ride it out here. Since we were in the US, we decided to put ourselves under a self-imposed quarantine for at least 2 weeks on the off chance that we had contracted the virus and we were unknown carriers and spreaders of it. And since then, we've been staying in our apartment in self-isolation. We want to do our part to set a good example and to also not continue spreading this.
At least we've been staying inside as much as we can. When we came back, we had to go get supplies because we had nothing.
Our lease was ending. We were gearing up to leave.
Yeah, so we went to Costco. We bought a whole giant cart full of stuff so we wouldn't have to leave for a while. And aside from going out for necessary supplies and necessary appointments, the only time we're going outside is to take our dog for a walk once a day, in which case we're staying far away from any people.
Let's talk about the number of cases in Mexico and the availability of testing. There's a pretty big group of people that seem to think that Mexico is somehow immune, or it isn't hitting Mexico as hard, or it won't hit Mexico quite as hard as it has in other places. Some people seem to think that because some parts of Mexico are hot and humid, the virus won't spread, but as we've seen in other countries that are hot and humid, they're still being very heavily impacted by this. It might seem like there aren't as many cases here in Mexico, and maybe there aren't at this point, but I think it's only because it just hasn't started spreading in the way that it has across the rest of the world.
It's kind of pointless to talk about numbers here in Mexico because there's just no testing. So I want to share a story with you of a friend of ours who's living in Puerto Vallarta. She was pretty sure she had the coronavirus. She went and figured out how to get tested, and then they had her go to a certain hospital and they had her...
First, they called her and she talked about her symptoms to the point that they thought, based on all of her symptoms, fever, cough, whatever, that she very likely had it.
So they made her come into this trailer that was set up near a local hospital, took all her vital signs, got her history and stuff, and the doctor was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you have it. We're gonna call you back in a week or two to come back in for testing. It's 1,000 pesos for this appointment, and it will be 8,500 pesos for the test. Why would you get tested if you're going to be hospitalized by the time you get the results back?
And when it costs that much too. So this is something we wanted to break down specifically, that whatever numbers you're hearing about Mexico, they're very likely wrong for a number of reasons. And across the rest of the world too, they're very likely wrong for a couple reasons. It takes about 2 weeks to present with symptoms. And from that time, if you went and got tested right when you were symptomatic, it would be around another week before you got the results back saying that you're positive. So whatever the numbers are, back that up about 3 weeks. And that's what the numbers were approximately 3 weeks ago.
But then you take into consideration the fact that adjusted for population, the US has had 40 times the number of tests done that Mexico has. So you also have to multiply the number by at least 40 before adjusting for that time difference.
Because not only are they not testing as much, but for the test to cost, all things included, using this example from our friend, 9,500 pesos, That is expensive for us. Imagine the average Mexican right now who can't even put food on the table. They're not gonna drop 9,500 pesos just to find out if they have it.
And to put this in perspective, the average Mexican's rent for the month might be about 2,500 pesos.
So that's why we don't believe that these numbers that are being reported in our state, in Quintana Roo, or in the rest of Mexico, we don't think they're accurate. So to even give you numbers is basically pointless because they would be off by about 3 weeks and there's just so little testing being done. You even read a story of a lady in Playa del Carmen.
This was just another example. Someone in Playa del Carmen who was confident that she had it, and she was trying to get tested and couldn't.
Keep that in mind whenever you're considering that about Mexico. And I think that's such a dangerous situation because it gives people a false sense of security, a false sense of confidence that, oh, it's not spreading in Mexico, or Mexicans are, have better genetics and they can't get it, or it's hot and humid and so that's why it's not spreading. I think this is such a dangerous circumstance to be in. So that concerns me a little bit about the climate here, in addition to the cavalier approach that the Mexican president is taking and encouraging people to go about their business as usual, which is dangerous as well.
I have something to say on that topic though.
Go for it.
That's a very common thing to believe these days, that going about your normal business is extremely dangerous because the virus is going to spread like crazy. And yes, absolutely it is. But something important here that you have to consider, in countries with fewer resources and developing countries, if you take away someone's ability to put food on the table for themselves and their family, they might not die from the virus, but they're going to die from thirst or starvation instead. So there's major economic consequences that could happen by shutting the economy down.
I've been hearing a lot of this online. It's impossible to know if people are overreacting or underreacting until after the fact. You were just talking about China, for instance, and the difference between how people were able to get through it there versus how they could get through it here in Mexico.
Yeah, so we were having this conversation off camera. China has about the same GDP per capita as Mexico does, so they're very similar in terms of a wealth standpoint. But China is a country of savers. On average, they save 30% of their income. So if they make $10,000 in a year, they're saving $3,000. When you have a country of savers, you can get through hard times much more easily. So they're all locked down for 2 months straight, aren't able to work, can only go out to get food and things like that. They were able to get through it because they had that nest egg.
If you're comparing China then to Mexico or even the US, both of those countries are not made up of savers. So it's going to be much more difficult for the population to get through a difficult time like this when they're expecting their next paycheck to cover their needs.
Also, when it came to panic buying, we didn't really see that here.
The day that we went to get all of our groceries once we got back from the US, it happened to be on the 15th of the month, and we went to Costco. It seemed crazy that day. So from our vantage point, it was like, oh yes, panic buying is hit, but then we went back the next week for groceries that we weren't able to get at that time, and everything was stocked. There was very few people there, so it almost seems like that's the day that everyone goes and stocks up. Whether it was a pandemic or not, people are going to go on payday to stock up on their groceries and everything. So that leads you to believe that Mexicans don't, or at least in this town, and at least in our experience in other places on the 15th or the 30th of the month, that's when they have the money to get the groceries that they need, and that means that they're probably not doing much spending in between paychecks. But to go into that a little more about panic buying, since we have gone back to the grocery store after that 15th of the month, we haven't really seen the shelves be very bare. There have been restrictions put in place about how much of certain items people can buy. For instance,
At Costco.
at Costco and at Chedraui, I've seen it, limit 3 per family, limit 1, whatever, depending on the thing. And the shelves haven't been cleared, like the pictures and videos that we've seen across the US where shelves are completely empty.
Yep.
It hasn't been like that here.
Pretty much everything is in stock, but you can't find hand sanitizer, you can't find rubbing alcohol.
Or disinfecting wipes, things like that. But there are other cleaners available. Those haven't been completely cleared out. There's still toilet paper. I mean, people have asked us that before. But I bet there would be panic buying if this was a society built on credit. Like people had lines of credit that they could use in these situations, like it is in the US. People can just rack up as much debt as they want to on their credit cards. but that's not really the way it is here. And so even if people wanted to, I don't think the average Mexican could go out and panic buy a bunch of stuff. Now let's talk about how this is affecting the town and the community of Puerto Morelos.
Well, a lot. It's a town that's based on tourism, especially the beach side of town. If you're unfamiliar with Puerto Morelos, there's the beach side of town where all the tourism happens, and then there's the Colonia side of town where most of the people live. Right now, on the beach side of town, almost everything's shut down.
It's a ghost town. It seemed to happen within about 5 days or so. Tourism completely dried up because people stopped traveling. People went home. I mean, we know that we had some Canadian neighbors. They were gonna stay longer here and they went back to Canada. Many people just wanted to get home, and people stopped traveling to Mexico as well. So it almost was like it went from high season, right now is considered high season, and we're coming into low season. It went right into low season. The rug was pulled out from under people with almost no warning. We decided we wanted to show you a little bit of what it's like here in Puerto Morelos, so we're gonna take a drive around and just get some footage of what the town looks like. So we're now on what we call the beach road. It's the one main highway that takes you from the Colonia side to the beach, and you will never see it this empty. Over here, normally there would be a ton of taxis all the way down the street there. Now there's 3. Some restaurants on the beach side don't even open until later in the day. We're driving around at 3 p.m. right now, so some of what we're seeing is closed might just be because of that.
El Pirata is open all day long.
But El Pirata, for instance, should be open. They're completely closed. One of the most popular restaurants on this side is Habanero Cantina, and that is completely closed. Here's one of our favorite places in town called Blue Morelos, and it looks like it's been closed for a couple weeks now. Right here is a popular spot that we've seen a lot of gringos going. This is like a breakfast and dinner place, so it should be open. Another restaurant that's completely closed, and I know this one would be open if it was open. This lavanderia is open, so that might be considered an essential business because not everybody has washers and dryers. Mangata and John Gray's completely closed. Yeah, there would not be a car park there if it was open. Here's Burger Underground. We think they're still doing delivery, but no dine-in. I don't see anyone out there on the dock. And this is the center of town where there would be people hanging out. Maybe not at this time of day, but there's absolutely no one. All of these shops right here would be open normally, completely closed. Not a single one is open. I've never seen this during the day. Never.
Not once.
All of these would be shops. Every single one that we're passing right now. Our favorite Loli Moya is closed. Sad.
But as for on this side of town, the Colonia side of town where most people live, most restaurants are still open, most businesses are still open.
After driving around, if I'm being honest, I'm completely shocked at how many people are walking around. I thought that the people that we were seeing was just in the evening when everyone was getting off work, and that's the nicer time of day when the sun isn't beating down on you, but it's 3 p.m. on a Thursday, and there seem to be plenty of people going out, biking, walking, going to restaurants. There were actually a lot of restaurants open. Like you had said before, not as many on the beach side, but on the Colonia side and your more like typical local Mexican restaurants, all of those were open and had sit-down service. I really think that people, it's just not hit home yet. It doesn't seem like a real enough thing to take it seriously, and people don't seem to be changing their behavior at all. I mean, the average person. The biggest difference is it looks like normal everyday Puerto Morelos, but there's just no tourists anywhere. That's the best way to describe it. Let's talk about how local government and how locals are taking action or taking things into their own hands. For example, public gatherings. Are people still going out and playing in the soccer field? Are they gathering at the center of town? Not really, and we've started to see signs pop up around town, like hashtag Quédate en casa, which means hashtag stay at home. And it doesn't seem like people are gathering in these common areas quite as much. What I've seen continue to happen, or maybe start to happen a little bit more, is that people will be out in their front yards basically, and it's kind of hard to tell if this is people getting together like for a party or if this is just the family going out to enjoy the fresh air or whatever. But it does seem like gatherings are still taking place at home, which I suppose follows the quédate en casa, but not exactly, it doesn't exactly prevent the spread of anything.
But in Mexican culture, you live with your extended family oftentimes.
Yeah.
So you might have grandparents living with a couple of generations of people. Even though there aren't public gatherings, there may still be plenty of large gatherings going on in every house because that's how people live.
Yeah, I mean, it can look like a party in that case, but it could just be a whole family. So we don't have the answers on that one. There are some places across Mexico where police are enforcing the no public gathering. Like there are rules, some places have rules set in place. Like it's much more strict in Mérida. We've been hearing updates from the channel Local Nomads. They've been doing a daily quarantine vlog and talking about how police are, I don't think it's so much that they're like taking people to jail if they're out, but they're definitely being strict and encouraging people to stay home and not go out if it's unnecessary. Here, I don't think anything like that is really happening.
Yeah, someone on our Facebook page asked if there were checkpoints or the police were forcing anything. And although we haven't personally seen any checkpoints, we have heard other people say that they were out like discouraging people from going to the beachside. And
what else? Well, being that this is a town that runs on tourism, that's pretty bad news for a lot of people.
Like you said, it went from full-on high season to almost nothing in a matter of a few days. You know what that means for the people living here? Most of them work in tourism. So they went from having a good job in high season to having nothing.
Some people have taken to starting other types of businesses. Like we've seen a few pop up that are, I'll go buy anything that you need so you don't have to leave the house. So it does seem like people are trying to do absolutely anything they can to make it through and kind of have that entrepreneurial spirit.
But it's an understatement to say that people are struggling.
Oh,
people are struggling hard and they don't know where their next meal is coming from. So since a lot of people have fallen on hard times, how are they getting by? Well, there aren't really government programs to help out in times like this. Yesterday when we recorded this video, to the best of our knowledge, the government wasn't doing anything to help people out, but we learned today that we were wrong about that. They are doing at least a few things. Number one, if you use less than a certain amount of electricity, they're giving you a discount. They're also giving a discount on your water usage. And in addition to those things, the state government of Quintana Roo just started handing out food kits to people, and in those kits was also a coupon for 4 kilograms of gas. Thankfully, we have some great local charities. One of those that's doing great work for this is Mexican Compassion Project.
Basically what they're doing is accepting donations, going to the store and buying a lot of certain foods like pasta, oil, rice, beans, and then distributing it to as many families as possible. It's things like that that's really helping people get through it, but they're just not receiving enough donations right now. And even though they've helped feed a lot of families, hundreds if I'm not mistaken, they've showed their message inbox with like 1,000 messages of people still hoping for help to feed their family.
If you want more information on that, we'll include a link to them down in the description.
Quick sidebar, if you're enjoying this video and want to see other videos we make about our life and usually traveling around Mexico, you might consider subscribing to our channel. Now, let's talk about the changes to shopping, which have been unlike anything I've ever seen in my life. We recently had to take a trip to a local grocery store called Chedraui, a place that we've been a million times before this whole pandemic thing, since we've been living here for a year. It's our favorite grocery store. We go in, and in order to enter the store, we both have to step both feet onto what looks like some sort of a welcome mat type deal, soaked in what I can only imagine was disinfectant or sanitizer of some kind.
They had a bunch of employees there directing you what to do. All the employees were wearing masks. So then after you stepped on this disinfectant shoe thing, then they put hand sanitizer on your hands, and only then they allowed you in the store. And once we were in the store, they had security at every entrance, and then they had security guards all around the store. I'm sure to prevent any theft.
I didn't think about this at the time because we don't steal. I was just like, why are they they were following us everywhere. Every aisle, there was basically a security guard right there. watching our every move. And when we were in the store, there were hardly any people in there at all. I remember seeing 3 other people.
Yeah, just a few that weren't employees.
And they had markings on the ground saying step here to keep people distanced. At the register, I saw a sign. I didn't translate it directly, but I think it was if you can avoid using cash and use a card instead, please do, so that the employees don't have to handle the currency.
Oh, really? I didn't see that.
And when I went to give her the card, usually you hand them the credit card and they'll put it in and do everything. She just directed me to put it in myself. So the employees are trying to not touch anything that you're touching, and then when you leave the register, there's more hand sanitizer there to use. And then the same thing at Costco, they now have the little markings on the ground to indicate where you're supposed to stand so that you're a certain distance away from everyone. And then instead of you taking the items out and placing them on the conveyor belts, the employees do everything. They touch everything, and then there are big pieces of plexiglass between the cashier and you must stand on the other side so that there's no chance of whatever, spitting on them or coughing on them or sneezing on them. But they're also wearing masks. Plexiglass.
At Costco?
Yes.
I don't remember seeing that. Huh.
Yes, for sure.
Oh. Okay.
She yelled at me because I wasn't standing on the other side of it.
Oh.
And what else was I going to say? Oh, and some people were asking us about masks, and are we wearing masks when we go outside? When we go for our once a day WALK, have to spell it because she's sitting right here. We're not wearing them because we're avoiding human contact.
There might be a point at which I will want to start wearing a mask.
Yeah, that could change for sure.
When we go out for those walks, that's a word I'm not supposed to say.
I don't think she heard you.
But when we're going to somewhere where we know we're going to be around people, like we've had to go to immigration and we've had to go to the grocery store.
We had to get new cell phone plans, and we have to do that in person. Anything like that where there's going to be any type of interaction or we're in close quarters, yes, we're wearing a mask.
So how many people are wearing masks? Well, those just walking out and about, less than 5%, but those in places with more people, like we had to go to immigration, almost 50% of people had a mask on there.
And it seems like all employees in those circumstances have masks on. However, I would have thought that at a convenience store, OXXO, that the employees would all be wearing masks, and they weren't, which I felt sad for them and for other people, because they probably interact with, now probably less than normal, but at least dozens, if not hundreds of people in a day, and to not be wearing masks exposes them to risk and to the people they're interacting with.
I see that as a way that it's going to spread very quickly. The employee at the convenience store isn't wearing a mask, and like you said, they come in contact with hundreds of people a day. At some point, they're going to get sick, and then there's going to be a week where they're asymptomatic.
Or 2 weeks.
And then they're going to be getting hundreds of other people sick a day. So yeah, I see that as a very ugly situation.
I'm glad to see, though, for the people who are doing deliveries and things, for the restaurants that have closed down or closed down to dine in, that those people are wearing masks. So clearly some people are taking it seriously, or more seriously than others. So it's a good sign to see that, but I would personally like to see even more people wearing at least something, because if they're not available, and I know that's the case in a lot of places in the world, you can still make something to cover your face, even if it's not 95% effective. It's not difficult to make a no-sew mask.
We asked you guys on our Tangerine Travels Facebook page if you guys had any questions that you'd like answered during this video. There are a few questions that we didn't cover so far in this video, so we're gonna get to those now.
One being, is the beach still open? What does it look like there? And for a pretty long time, it was open and people could still go there, which surprised me because that wasn't the case in other parts of Mexico and other beaches across Mexico. Like even the neighboring state Yucatan closed their beaches far earlier than Puerto Morelos has, but the beach here in Puerto Morelos is closed, and they are closed nationwide now.
And someone else asked, are the resorts still open? And as far as I know, all the resorts are closed now. Another
question is, are prices changing because of the pandemic? Have they gone up or down?
Not that we've seen, but again, we haven't been going out. So
that's actually something to keep in mind from this whole video, is that we have a very limited scope of what's happening, a limited view, because we're kind of in our own bubble. We've been staying in our apartment, and when we say we've been self-quarantining, we're taking this really seriously. Please let us know if you know of other updates or differences in the situation. What we can do is read about it online, talk to people online, and do as much research as we can, but some of that's just not readily available. It's just not out there for us to find. Another question was, are there any checkpoints? And we talked about this a little bit earlier, how police were sort of discouraging people from going to the beach side unless it was absolutely necessary. Although we haven't experienced anything like that ourselves, I did want to mention that I have read and heard about that checkpoints happening in other places in Mexico, specifically in smaller towns where you have to have something on you, like an electrical bill or something that proves that you live there for them to allow you to come into the town. So that's like...
Everyone's carrying their electric bill around.
I know, yeah, that's totally what I have in my wallet. We'd be screwed. We don't have any bills in our name, actually, do we? In any case, in other places across Mexico, it seems like I was saying earlier, more on the micro level, people are taking matters into their own hands, like local governments and local groups and organizations, and even just the community is making these efforts to prevent the spread and to keep this virus out of small towns that would very, very easily be devastated by that, especially towns that are filled with an older population. I mean, here, even in Puerto Morelos, I think the population is much older. Like, there's not very many people that are our age or younger. I mean, people do have kids, of course, but I think as a whole, the population is older, and that is, the older the people, the more likely, the harder it's gonna hit. The harder it would hit them, and the less likely that they would be able to make a full recovery. And we have a question here from Peter. He asks, do we regret not leaving Mexico? And if so, are we at all worried that if it gets bad there, we won't have any way out?
Do we regret not leaving Mexico? No. In fact, we specifically came back to Mexico to ride this out after thinking through it. Are we nervous about not being able to have a way out if things get bad? Maybe a little, but I think my answer would be the same no matter where I was living.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I am a little bit scared about what might happen because it seems peaceful and fine now. Like, the town's not freaking out, people aren't looting or robbing people or anything, but there's always the chance that that's gonna happen. But there's the chance that that will happen anywhere. That could happen in the US and things could turn ugly. Before we go, please drop us a comment down below if there's anything that we didn't cover in this video that you're curious to know about the situation in Mexico or specifically in Puerto Morelos. We would also be curious to hear about your experiences, where you're living, and how that might compare to what it's like here.
If you want to see more of our videos, please subscribe to our channel.
And you might want to do that because tomorrow we are going to be hosting another live video. We've been making that a thing for the past 3 weeks. We've been having a live video every Sunday at 12 p.m. Cancun time. If you want to know what the other times are, check us out on Facebook and Twitter. We'll be posting the times and the link to join us. But we hope to see you there tomorrow. But before you go, one more thing. Hold on, one more thing. Gong that bell so you get notified the next time we put out a live video or a real video, any other video.
We'll see you soon.